Hi everybody, I am Auditory from Netaji Subhash Open University, Kolkata. I am here today to talk about learning disabilities. I am sure everyone's favorite subject it is, but I promise over the next 15 minutes you will learn a lot about learning disabilities and also have fun with this. Before we begin with the main topic, I want to discuss about the 15 minutes, about next 15 minutes, what I am going to talk. I'll discuss on definition, then characteristics of students with LD in brief, and then very important part is teaching strategies for students with learning disabilities. I'll start with a little video presentation where there is a little girl named Auditory who diagnosed as a learning disability. Let's watch the video first.
Hi, my name is Aditi. I am 7 years old. I go to St. Mary's School. At school, when my teacher teaches me maths, I have trouble with my numbers. When I must to read in class, my letters seem to get jumbled up. When I came home from school with my spelling test, my mama got angry looking at my result. We visited a kind lady. Her name was Mrs. Counselor. She told us I have a learning disability. What is learning disability?
Okay, so we have seen the video and now I am going to discuss on definition of learning disability according to IDEA. So, learning disability means a disorder in the processing of information involved in understanding and using language that is spoken or written, then difficulties in learning, particularly reading, writing, mathematics and or spelling. And the problem is not primarily due to other causes and special educational service needed to succeed in school. There is a severe discrepancy between the potential of the child and their achievement. Now, see the difficulties. What are the difficulties associated with learning disabilities? There are receptive and expressive language, difficulties in receptive and expressive language. Then there is difficulty in auditory or phonological processing, then visual processing, then visual motor processing, then attention. There is a huge attention deficit disorder in most of the cases. Then there is memory, metacognition, study and organizational skills and social skills. So these are the difficulties associated with a child who having learning disability. So if we see the information processing, there is a problem or we can say that disorder in the processing of information. So what it refers to, information processing refers to how your brain takes in information, uses those informations, then store this information in memory, then retrieves the information from memory and lastly express those information. So this is the whole process of information processing, and if a learning disabled child have any areas of problem in any areas, then he has some problem in processing of information. Then there is disorder in processing of information, which involves firstly having a learning disability, means that the brain processes information differently than most other students. Then simply stated, certain kinds of information get stuck or lost while traveling through the brain of the student with learning disability. Then comes visual processing disorder. What is it? Visual processing involves how well a student can use visual information. When he sees something, especially something complex, as for example, does he understand it quickly and easily? Can he visualize things like picture, shapes, words, etc. in his head? Can he remember information that he sees? So if we see, there is an example of visual processing disorder, what I am giving here. There are girls who have written how they perceive monkey, the spelling of monkey, how they perceive, and accordingly they written on the script. If we see, we can observe that there are differences in written monkey. So how they visualize this spelling monkey, accordingly they have written. So these girls have some problem in visual processing information. Next, there is auditory processing disorder. What is it? Auditory processing involves how well a student can use auditory information. As for example, when suppose Raju hears something, especially something detailed, does he understand it quickly and easily? Can he hear things like sound, numbers, words, etc. in his head? Can he remember information that he hears? So all these problems comes under auditory processing disorder. The next and very important is difficulties in learning. There are very common types of learning disabilities, including dyslexia, dysgraphia and dyscalculia. Dyslexia is severe difficulty in learning to read. Then dysgraphia is severe difficulty in learning to write, and there is dyscalculia, that is severe difficulty in learning to do mathematical concepts and computation. Now I'll show you there are some famous people who are having learning disabilities, Asperger's syndrome, and they are also very successful person in life. So we are going to watch this video now. disability. If we see the pie diagram, there are 50% of school-age population with disabilities who are having learning disabilities, and there are 4.45% learning disabilities among school-age population. So we can see how severe this problem is and how it is very important to identify those children and accordingly give them therapies. So, learning disability characteristics involves average cognitive ability, impairments in language processing, phonological processing, visual processing, processing speed, then there is memory and attention. Now I'll show you another video presentation. It's a very interesting presentation. So where you can see a child who is having learning difficulties or learning disabilities, how he perceives traffic signal, how it is very difficult for him to perceive different traffic signals. So let's watch this video now.
That's the stop sign. No overtaking. Roundabout.
Now I am going to discuss on teaching strategies. See, I have shown you a cartoon, that is where the child who has diagnosed as learning disability, she is asking her teacher that, how do you know that I have a learning disability? Whereas the teacher, maybe you have a teaching disability. So there are some teaching strategies I am going to discuss on. Reduce the level of distraction in the room. Explicitly state the topic at hand and proceed in a structured, concrete manner. Progress from the concrete to the abstract. Don't jump without warning from one topic to another. Always write the page number and exercise number on the board so that the lazy student can always find his place without asking. Then whenever appropriate, present material using graphics and or sensory media. Then combine both auditory and visual stimuli. Say it and write it on the board whenever possible. Use videos, demonstration and concrete materials. Students with learning disabilities may require extra time to complete in-class and homework assignments as well as tests. Then there is consider administering tests in alternative format for them, such as maybe orally or computer using. Having students use a word processor to whatever extent is possible, then their word processing makes rewriting and revisiting so much less laborious. Its value is immeasurable for those students with fine motor, sequencing, spelling and other language manipulation problems. Make it easy for students to ask for repetition. Bear in mind that it is important to use the same language when you do repeat what you do not change the construct and defeat the purpose of the repetition. Then frame materials by relating it to past classroom or personal experience and highlighting new materials. Don't issue too many instructions at the same time. Break tasks down into their component parts and issue the instructions for each part one at a time. Begin each lesson with a review of what has been learned. Tell students the goal of the lesson. Reorganize the sitting to help students by placing students with special needs near the teacher. This is also very important, sitting arrangement for them. Then give positive feedback when behavior is satisfactory. Give feedback when behavior is not satisfactory. Use an assignment calendar to give students a clear idea of due dates. If student cannot read text, use tape recorded books in a listening center or assign a peer to read to the students. Allow student extra time on test. Then provide student a quiet place free of distraction in which to take test. And lastly, talk with students to determine prior knowledge and begin instruction at the appropriate level of understanding. Then, for learning disabled children, you can use special materials like computer, like spell check, like tape recorder, electronic dictionaries, etc. And it's very important to give them rewards to stimulate work completion. And if needed, then enroll students in a remedial program in school, then assign peer tutor or cross-age tutor to help the child in the classroom and encourage remedial program even outside of the school. So these are all strategies what we have to keep in mind when we are going to teach a learning disabled child in a inclusive classroom setup. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you all.